have you ever been there? You're trying to speak a language you're learning and your brain just, it hits a wall. It feels like everything inside is buffering, right? Like a little spinning circle on your screen.
Oh, absolutely. That mental lag, that freeze up.
Yeah.
It's probably the most common frustration for, well, anyone serious about learning a language.
Yeah.
And really comes down to what we call the translation trap.
The translation trap. Okay.
Yeah. And look, it's not because you're not smart or you haven't studied enough, nothing like that.
Yeah.
It's this habit, this deeply ingrained habit
Yeah.
of mentally translating everything from your native language first.
Right. So you hear something in English,
Mm-hmm.
you translate it back to, say, Spanish or French in your head to understand it.
Right.
Then you figure out your reply in Spanish or French,
Step 3.
translate that back into English, and then finally you say it. Wow, that's a lot of steps.
It is. It's like this 4-stage process for every single little back and forth. And in a real conversation, which moves fast.
Yeah.
Right? That's just
Yeah.
totally unsustainable.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It is. And this brings in a really key idea from like cognitive science. It's about working memory, or sometimes called cognitive load. Your brain, it only has so much bandwidth available in any one time.
Okay.
So when you force that translation step, you're basically using up all this precious mental energy that you should be using for understanding nuance or keeping up with the speed or actually, connecting with the other person.
So you max out your brain's processing power just juggling the languages.
Exactly. You hit your cognitive load limit just managing the mechanics.
Yeah.
And there's like nothing left over for actual fluent, spontaneous conversation.
Okay, so the mission for this deep dive then isn't just about learning more words. It's really about reprogramming the brain, right? Getting rid of that please wait translating message that seems to pop up.
That's the goal. We want to help you train your brain to connect your thoughts, your ideas, directly to English words and phrases. So English becomes like the default setting for conversation, not this extra layer you have to fight through.
Moving from just knowing about English to actually using it naturally.
Precisely, from academic knowledge to spontaneous skill. And we're going to look at, real practical techniques, things grounded in how our brains actually learn languages, not just quick fixes or magic tricks.
Okay, sounds good. So before we jump into the specific techniques, let's maybe lay down the basic philosophy here. Because learning anything, right, whether it's driving a car or cooking or even coding, it seems to follow this fundamental 2-step pattern.
That's absolutely right. It's sort of a universal principle of acquiring any skill. Step 1 is always about absorption. You're taking information in, you're listening, watching, reading the manual, whatever it is.
Okay, the input stage.
The input stage, exactly. And step 2 is application. That's when you actually do the thing. You practice, you try it out, maybe you mess up, you adjust, but you're actively using what you absorbed.
Got it. Absorb, then apply. So how does this map onto learning English specifically?
Well, we can simplify it into a kind of mantra, something you should keep in mind. English in, English out.
English in, English out. I like that.
Yeah. Think of your brain like a big sponge. The English in part is where that sponge is just soaking everything up.
Okay.
This is all about absorption, usually pretty low stress. You're listening to podcasts, watching shows, reading articles. You're just filling that sponge with the sounds, the rhythms, the vocabulary of real English.
Soaking it all in.
Exactly. And what's really important here, neuroscientifically speaking, is that your brain starts to differentiate. It distinguishes between declarative memory, that's like knowing facts, grammar rules, vocabulary lists.
The stuff you learn in textbooks.
Right, the stuff you can declare. And procedural memory, that's the how-to memory, like riding a bike or typing. It's automatic. You don't think about the steps.
And the goal is to move English from being just facts I know
From declarative.
to being an automatic skill. I just...
Precisely. Into that procedural memory.
Yeah.
And that transition. That's what happens in the English out phase.
Okay, the application part.
Yeah. When you start actually speaking, writing, using the language you've absorbed, it's like, well, if English in is breathing in, English out is breathing out. You absolutely need both.
Yeah.
Can't just inhale forever, right?
Ha, right. You'd explode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you only absorb and you never, ever produce, that language just stays locked up.
Yeah.
It often gets stuck in that declarative, factual memory part of your brain.
Which forces you back into that trap of consciously thinking about rules every time you want to say something.
Bingo. You're stuck analyzing instead of communicating.
Okay, that really sets the stage.
Yeah.
So our plan for this deep dive is clear. First, we'll tackle phase 1, English in. How to really maximize soaking up the language effectively, make sure that sponge is full of good stuff.
Natural, useful stuff.
Then we'll move to phase 2, English out. How to, confidently squeeze that sponge, activate the knowledge, and get English flowing into that automatic procedural side of things.
Sounds like a solid plan.
All right, let's dive into phase 1, English in. For a lot of us, myself included, our first memories of language class are, well, they're not exactly thrilling, are they? Textbooks, grammar charts, endless flashcards.
Oh, yeah. Sterile environments, we could call them. And we really need to break free from that idea that language learning has to be boring or feel like hard academic work all the time.
Because language isn't just a set of rules on a page.
Not at all. Language is alive.
Yeah.
It's cultural, it's messy, it's dynamic. And if you genuinely want your brain to start thinking in English, you can't treat English like some dead artifact you're just memorizing facts about.
You need to make it part of your life, part of your vibe.
Your vibe, exactly. You have to weave it into your daily routine, your hobbies, the things you actually care about.
Okay, so this brings us to the first big strategy for English in, immersion through enjoyment. Basically, bring English into your world through media you already love or would want to consume anyway.
This is so critical. Why? Because of engagement. If you force yourself to read, like a super dry technical manual in English, your brain kind of resists. It flags that input as, boring, low importance.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Right. But if you're totally hooked on a Netflix series, or you're watching fascinating YouTube videos about, I don't know, woodworking, or you're listening to a song that just gets stuck in your head, that emotional connection, that engagement, it signals to your brain, hey, pay attention, this stuff is important, keep it.
So you're learning without feeling like you're studying.
Exactly. And you're not just learning isolated words. You're hearing natural conversation, the rhythm, the slang, the little filler words people use, functional phrases, all in a context that gives it immediate sticky meaning.
Okay, but let's hit a potential snag here, something I know a lot of listeners struggle with. Subtitles. You mentioned watching Netflix. Is it okay to use subtitles? Or does that just, let you cheat by reading in your own language and ignoring the English sounds? Doesn't that reinforce the translation habit we're trying to break?
That is a great question and a really important one. The answer is, well, it's nuanced, especially when you're in this English in phase and maybe you're at a beginner or intermediate level. Subtitles can actually be an incredibly powerful training wheel if you use them smartly.
Training wheel. Okay, how so?
The key is progression. Ideally, you want to aim for English audio with English subtitles. That way you're seeing the words and hearing them simultaneously. But if that's just too much at first, if it's overwhelming.
Yes, sometimes it really is.
Right, then using your native language subtitles temporarily can be okay.
Yeah.
But the emphasis is on temporarily.
So why is that temporary crutch sometimes helpful?
Because the absolute first step has to be comprehension. If you're watching something totally new and you understand like 0%, it's just frustrating. You'll give up. Native language subtitles give you just enough of a handhold, enough context, so your brain can hear the English phrase, instantly grasp its meaning through the subtitle, and start mapping the sound directly to the concept. It helps you begin to bypass that slow, conscious translation for common phrases.
Ah, I see. So it's like a bridge to help you connect the sound and the meaning directly without having to stop and translate word for word in your head.
Exactly. It's a temporary bridge, not a permanent residence.
Got it. So the strategy is maybe watch it once with native subtitles if you really need them for basic understanding.
Just to get the gist, yeah.
Then, crucially, watch it again with English subtitles only. Or maybe even try with no subtitles at all the second time.
That's the ideal progression, because it's that repeated exposure, hearing those common phrases, things like no way, or that's not fair, or are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Hearing them over and over in a context you understand and find engaging. That's what makes them stick.
It sounds a lot like how kids learn their first language, doesn't it? Through massive exposure and repetition in meaningful situations.
It mirrors it quite closely, yes.
Really?
They absorb patterns naturally. So the actionable challenge here for you listening is pick one thing. One show, maybe it's Friends, maybe Brooklyn Nine-Nine, maybe even a kid's show like Bluey, which has great natural dialogue, or one podcast series, or even one musician whose songs you like. Commit to consuming just that one thing in English for, say, the next week.
Just one.
Just start with one. Let your brain soak in those patterns consistently. It'll start finding the shortcuts automatically if you give it enough input.
Okay, that makes sense. Start small, stay consistent. All right, so if immersion is about sort of passively soaking things up through enjoyable content, what's next for English in?
The next strategy is more active, more immediate. It's about engaging directly with your physical environment. We call it visual English.
Visual English. Okay.
This one directly attacks that translation trap. Remember, the trap thrives in that little gap between seeing something and finding the English word for it.
Right. The pause while you search your mental dictionary.
Exactly. We want to slam that gap shut. So instead of seeing your refrigerator thinking never or Kühlschrank or whatever it is in your language and then landing on a refrigerator,
Yeah.
you want to train your brain to see it and immediately think or say.
Refrigerator.
Refrigerator. Instant connection. Object to English word. No middleman.
Okay, so how do we practice this? What are the steps?
It's incredibly simple, but it needs conscious effort, especially at first. Just look around you, wherever you are right now, your kitchen, your desk, your car, and start naming things.
Yeah.
In English, out loud if you can.
So right now I see my microphone, laptop, mug, water bottle.
Perfect. Just like that. Spontaneous, immediate labeling. Chair. Window. Light. Keyboard. You're forging that direct link between the visual input and the English sound.
And you mentioned an advanced tip, using sticky notes.
Ah, yes, the pro tip. Get some sticky notes and physically label things in your environment. Put one on the door, one on the window, one on the light switch, the mirror, the kettle, whatever you see and use often.
Why is that so effective? Just seeing the word passively.
It's more than passive viewing. Every time your eyes glance over that sticky note, even if you're thinking about something totally different, your brain gets a little flashcard reminder of the English word associated with that physical object.
Uh-huh.
It reinforces the connection constantly throughout your day.
That makes sense. Constant low-level reinforcement. And the source material mentioned something about the neuroscience here. Dual activation. That sounds powerful.
It is powerful. This is where you really turbocharge the learning from those sticky notes. Dual activation means you're engaging multiple senses, multiple channels in your brain at the same time. And that significantly speeds up how quickly you memorize and solidify that information.
So how does it work with the sticky notes?
Okay, so you see the sticky note that says pillow on your pillow. That's
Yeah.
visual input, channel 1. Then you deliberately say the word pillow out loud. That's auditory input. You hear yourself say it. Channel 2.
Visual and auditory together.
Right. You're hitting that memory center in your brain from 2 different directions simultaneously. And when those signals arrive together, synchronized.
The brain pays extra attention.
Exactly. The brain interprets that synchronized multi-channel input as, whoa, this is important, let's lock this down.
Yeah.
It helps lay down those neural pathways for the word much faster and much stronger.
Yeah.
It's like underlining and highlighting something in your notes at the same time. It makes it stand out.
And this helps build that automatic connection we're aiming for.
Absolutely. It helps thicken the myelin sheath around those neural connections.
Mm-hmm.
Think of myelin like the insulation on an electrical wire. Better insulation means faster, more efficient signal transmission. So that word pillow becomes easier and faster to access automatically next time you see or think of a pillow.
Wow. Okay, so the challenge for you listening isn't just to put up the sticky notes.
No,
It's to actually interact with them. Look at the note, say the word out loud, maybe even touch the object, like touch the door while saying door.
yes. Adding touch, the tactile sense, brings in a third channel. Even better. So look, say touch. That's triple activation. Start small. Maybe pick 5 things today. Label them, practice saying them. Add 5 more tomorrow. Consistency is the absolute key to paving those new neural highways in English.
Okay, fantastic. So we've covered English in really well, soaking up the language through enjoyable immersion and actively labeling our world using visual cues and dual activation. Now we need to get to the other side of the equation, right? Phase 2, English out,
Yep.
the application, the activation, because you said earlier, if we just absorb and never use it.
You lose it. Absolutely. The brain is all about efficiency. It runs on a use it or lose it principle.
Yeah.
If you soak up all this great vocabulary and sentence structure, but never actually retrieve it, never activate those pathways by speaking or writing, they just weaken over time. Your brain basically thinks, well, they're not using this info. Let's clear out the storage space.
Okay, a bit scary, but motivating. So how do we start activating? A lot of people feel like they need a teacher or a conversation partner to practice speaking.
That's a common belief. But the great news is you don't need a partner to start activating your English. You can do a huge amount of practice all by yourself. You just need a little bit of intention and strategy.
All right, so what's the first step for English out?
The first step is both psychological and practical. Start small and build blocks. Don't feel pressured to suddenly start delivering, complex arguments or long stories in English. That's intimidating and often counterproductive at first.
So forget Shakespearean monologues for now.
Definitely. Focus on short, simple, high-frequency sentences first. Think of these as the basic building blocks of fluency.
Why start so simple?
Because fluency, real fluency, isn't really measured by how many fancy words you know. It's measured by how smoothly and automatically you can communicate your basic needs and observations. If you can instantly produce short, relevant sentences without that translation lag, you're already achieving fluency in those specific situations. Plus, it creates a low-stakes practice environment. Less pressure means more willingness to try.
Makes sense. So give us some examples of these simple foundational sentences we should practice.
Think about things related to your immediate state or surroundings, like, I'm hungry, it's sunny today, I need some water, I like this coffee, I'm tired.
Really basic stuff.
Really basic,
Yeah.
but incredibly useful. These are things you might actually think or want to say dozens of times a day. And every time you manage to say one spontaneously without translating, your brain gets a tiny reward, like a little hit of dopamine. It reinforces the action, making you more likely to do it again. It builds a positive feedback loop.
We actually got a really cool story about this from a listener, didn't we? Maya from Texas.
Yes, Maya's story is a perfect example of this starting small principle in action. Her big hurdle wasn't really vocabulary. She knew a lot of words. It was that constant mental translation, especially in the morning when her brain was still warming up.
So what does she do?
She realized her morning routine, getting coffee, making breakfast, was the same predictable sequence every day, a perfect low-stress environment for practice. So she didn't try to discuss philosophy or current events. Her commitment was simple. Narrate 5 short, relevant sentences out loud each morning.
What kind of sentences?
Things directly related to what she was doing, like, this is my favorite mug, I'm making scrambled eggs, I need to check my email soon, the birds are loud today, and maybe, okay, time to grab my keys and go.
So the power wasn't in the complexity, but in the consistency and the spontaneity of using those simple phrases every single day in context.
Exactly. She wasn't just reciting a list. She was using English to describe her actual real-time experience. And she said after just about a month of doing this consistently,
What happened?
it wasn't just that she got faster at saying those specific 5 sentences. She said the whole feeling of English started to change for her. It felt less like this foreign subject she had to switch on and more like a tool she just used. Part of her daily rhythm. She shifted the identity of English in her mind.
That's fantastic. Shifting from studying English to using English. That really flows into the next strategy for English out, doesn't it? Which uses the conversation partner we always have available.
Absolutely. Strategy 2.2 is all about leveraging your own inner voice. Turn your inner monologue into an English voice.
Talking to yourself, basically.
Pretty much. Either out loud when you're alone or just silently in your head. This is maybe the most direct assault on the translation trap you can make.
How so?
Because it targets the very root of the problem, your thought process. If you can start thinking directly in English, even about simple things, then there's literally nothing left to translate when you need to speak. The thought is already in English.
Okay, I can see how that would work, but doesn't it feel, I don't know, a bit weird or unnatural at first?
Oh, it definitely can. It might feel forced or even a little silly initially, but you have to push through that initial awkwardness. By consciously choosing to narrate your actions, your observations, your plans in English, even silently, you are actively rewiring your brain. You're training it to use English as its internal operating system for everyday thoughts.
And the great thing is you can practice this anywhere, anytime, right? No special equipment needed.
Exactly. Those moments that are usually just dead time, waiting for the bus, doing the dishes, walking the dog, driving to work, they become prime practice opportunities.
So instead of just letting your mind wander or thinking in your native language.
You actively engage it in English. Let's take walking or driving. Instead of just zoning out, start narrating quietly to yourself or just mentally. We heard from another listener, Jake, who did this on his commute.
What did Jake do?
He just described things he saw or thought. Like, okay, traffic looks bad today, or that's an interesting building. Wonder what it is. I should probably get a haircut soon. That dog over there looks really sleepy. Need to remember to pick up milk on the way home. Simple everyday stuff.
Just noticing and commenting internally, but in English.
Exactly. He was constantly practicing formulating simple, observational thoughts directly in English.
And what was the result for him? Did it make a difference?
He said the biggest change was that he stopped hitting that translation roadblock for everyday topics. When he later wanted to actually tell someone, hey, that dog looks sleepy, the thought process, the neural pathway was already there. He basically rehearsed it internally dozens of times. It made his spoken English feel much more natural and less effortful for those common situations.
That makes a lot of sense. You're pre-paving the roads, essentially. Now, for listeners who maybe want a bit more structure or want to track their progress with this inner monologue stuff, you suggested recording a quick phone vlog.
Yeah, it's a fun little extension. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't need to share it with anyone. Just, flip your phone camera around, hit record, and talk for maybe 60 seconds
About what?
about your day. Okay, so today I had meetings, then I grabbed lunch, saw something funny on the way home, whatever comes to mind. Then just delete it.
What's the benefit of doing that versus just thinking it?
It adds a layer of accountability, even just to yourself. It also simulates the pressure of speaking to someone else, even though it's just the camera. You're forced to structure your thoughts a bit more coherently. And listening back, even for a second before you delete it, you might notice where you hesitated or where you could phrase things better. That self-correction process is incredibly valuable for improving fluency.
Okay, cool idea. So we've got starting small and we've got the inner monologue. What's the third big strategy for English out? You called it a secret weapon.
Ah, yes, the secret weapon. This one is all about moving beyond just getting the words out and starting to sound more natural, more fluid, getting the flow right. It's called shadowing.
Shadowing. Okay, what exactly is that?
Shadowing is pretty intense, but incredibly effective. Basically, you listen to a native speaker, could be from a movie clip, a podcast, an audiobook, and you try to repeat what they're saying immediately after them, almost at the same time. Like you're their echo.
Okay, echo. Why is this considered such a powerful tool, especially for pronunciation and that natural flow?
Because it bypasses your analytical brain to some extent.
Yeah.
You're not focusing so much on the meaning of each individual word. Instead, you're forcing your mouth, your tongue, your vocal cords, your whole articulatory system to physically mimic the sounds, the rhythm, and the intonation of the speaker.
So it's like physical training for your mouth.
Exactly. It's like physiotherapy for your accent.
Yeah.
You're not just learning about English sounds, you're training the muscles to actually produce them accurately and smoothly. You start to pick up on the music of English. English has its own melody. Where the stress falls in a sentence, how the pitch goes up or down at the end of questions, how words often link together smoothly, like how want to often sounds like wanna. Shadowing helps you internalize and reproduce that whole musical phrase, not just the individual notes or words. It tackles rhythm, stress, intonation, and connected speech all at once.
Okay, I get it. It's like learning a dance by mimicking the dancer, not just reading the steps. So how do we actually do shadowing? It sounds kind of difficult.
It can be tricky at first, so the key is to start really short and manageable. Don't try to shadow a whole 5-minute speech right away.
Okay, good advice.
Pick maybe 10 or 15 seconds of audio, something where the speaker is relatively clear. Listen to that short clip once or twice, really focusing on the sound, the ups and downs, the rhythm.
Not the meaning so much.
Not primarily, no.
Yeah.
Focus on the melody first. Then play the clip again and try to speak along with it, or just slightly behind it, like a shadow. Repeat that same short clip several times.
Pause and repeat. Or try to do it live.
You can do both. Pausing after the speaker and repeating is good for accuracy. Trying to speak along with them, slightly delayed, is better for flow and rhythm. Experiment and see what works for you. The key is repetition of that small segment.
What if the speaker's just too fast? Like, I'm trying to shadow a fast-talking character in a movie and I just can't keep up.
That's super common. Don't get discouraged. It just means you need to adjust your source material or the speed. Find speakers who talk a bit more slowly and clearly, maybe news reporters, audiobook narrators, or even educational content creators.
Or use those playback speed controls.
Absolutely. Most podcast apps and video players let you slow down the audio. Try setting it to 0.75x speed or even 0.5x if necessary. Shadow at the slower speed until the mouth movements feel more comfortable, until you can keep up. Then gradually increase the speed back towards normal.
How much shadowing should someone aim for?
Honestly, even one really focused minute of shadowing per day can make a noticeable difference over time. Just 1 minute of intense mimicry. It builds muscle memory in your mouth and boosts your confidence in producing those English sounds.
And what about mistakes? People are going to stumble, get tongue-tied.
Of course, that's not just expected, it's necessary. If you're getting tongue-tied, if you're messing up the sounds, it means you're pushing yourself. You're operating at the edge of your current ability.
That's where the learning happens, right?
Exactly. That discomfort, those mistakes, they were literally the sign that your brain and your muscles are trying to build new pathways, new coordination. Don't see them as failure. See them as evidence of effort and growth. Just keep going. Keep trying.
Okay, great. So we have the English in strategies, immersion, and labeling. And the English out strategy, starting small, inner monologue, and shadowing. Is there like an overarching principle that ties all this together?
Yes, there absolutely is. We could call it the golden rule of fluency, and it's incredibly simple, but often overlooked. Is repeat, repeat, and repeat again.
Repetition. Okay, that sounds maybe a bit boring, like those drills we wanted to get away from.
Ah, but it's not about boring, mindless drills. It's about understanding why repetition is so fundamental for brain training. From a neuroscience perspective, repetition is basically the signal your brain uses to determine what's important and worth keeping.
How does that work?
Well, think about it. Your brain is bombarded with information constantly. It has to decide what to store long-term and what to discard. If you encounter a piece of information like a new English word or phrase only once,
Your brain thinks, okay, maybe that was just random noise, probably don't need it.
pretty much, it stays in your fragile short-term memory and is likely to fade away quickly. But if you encounter that same word or phrase repeatedly, if you hear it, see it, say it, maybe even write it multiple times over a period,
Then the brain goes, okay, hold on. They keep bringing this up. This must be important. Better save this one properly.
exactly. That repeated engagement triggers the process of memory consolidation. It moves the information from that temporary holding area into your more robust long-term memory, ideally, into that procedural memory we talked about, making it automatic.
You used an analogy before, the path through tall grass.
Right. Walk the path once, the grass springs back. Walk it 20 times over a few days or weeks. You wear down a clear, easy-to-follow dirt road. That's your strong neural pathway. Repetition builds that durable pathway for the English you're learning, making it much easier and faster to retrieve when you need it in conversation. Less effort required.
Okay, but you said it's not just mindless repetition, so just saying the same word 50 times in a row isn't the best way.
Generally, no. Research shows that varied repetition and spaced repetition are much more effective.
Spaced repetition, like using flashcard apps.
That's one application, yes. The core idea, the spacing effect, is that it's better to revisit the information at increasing intervals, maybe review it today, then again in 2 days, then in a week, etc., rather than cramming it all in one session.
Why is spacing it out better?
Each time you successfully retrieve the information after a bit of a gap, it strengthens the memory trace more effectively than retrieving it easily right away. It tells your brain, hey, I could still access this after a break. It must be really important.
Okay, so space out your practice. And what about varied repetition? How does that apply, especially to speaking practice? If I'm practicing a simple sentence like, I need to go now.
Instead of just saying, I need to go now, 5 times in the exact same flat tone, you vary how you say it. Introduce emotional and physical variety.
How would I do that?
Try saying, I need to go now, urgently, like you're late. Then say it regretfully, like you wish you could stay longer. Say it with a big smile, say it while shrugging. Whisper it, say it really slowly and deliberately, like you're making a very clear point.
Ah, so you're practicing using that same phrase, but with different feelings and intentions like you would in real life.
Precisely. You're training your brain and your mouth to produce that phrase flexibly across a range of potential contexts. It makes the learning much richer and more adaptable. It ensures that when you actually feel rushed or regretful and need to say, I need to go now, the pathway is already trained for that specific nuance, making it come out more naturally and automatically, even under pressure.
That makes so much sense. You're building resilience into your fluency. So ultimately, all these techniques, the immersion, the labeling, the inner talk, the shadowing, the smart repetition, they're all working towards the same end goal, aren't they?
Yes, and that goal isn't about achieving some mythical state of perfection where you never make a mistake. Fluency, real usable fluency, is much more about achieving a comfortable, consistent, spontaneous rhythm in English.
A rhythm where your thoughts connect directly to your words without that painful translation buffer.
That's it, exactly. Finding that flow, that natural cadence. That's the definition of success we're aiming for here.
Okay, this has been incredibly detailed. Let's try to quickly wrap up the core philosophy we've explored in this deep dive. What we've talked about today, it really wasn't about finding some magic bullet or overnight trick, was it?
Not at all. It's all about understanding that real progress comes from small, consistent, high-impact actions that, over time, fundamentally rewire how your brain handles English, shifting it from being a foreign code you translate to a natural operating system you think in.
So the mantra again, English in. That means constantly feeding your brain, listening, watching, labeling your world, making absorption a daily habit, and importantly, making it enjoyable.
Keep filling that sponge. And English out. That means you must activate what you're learning. Start small with simple sentences. Talk to yourself constantly in English, practice shadowing to get the music right, and use smart, varied repetition to make it all stick.
Because that true fluency, that rhythm, it's built day by day, habit by habit. One moment of choosing to think or speak in English instead of translating. And look, if you, listening right now, have stuck with us through all this detail, you clearly have the dedication it takes.
Absolutely. So let's make this practical. Here is the deep dive challenge for you right now. Pick one, just one specific concrete action from everything we've discussed, and commit to doing it today.
Just one. Like what?
Maybe it's grabbing 3 sticky notes right now, labeling 3 things in your kitchen, fridge, sink, microwave, and saying those words out loud, maybe touching them, using that dual or triple activation.
Okay, that takes like 2 minutes.
Exactly. Or maybe it's finding a 1-minute clip of a clear speaker online and committing to shadowing just that 1 minute later today. Pause, repeat, focus on the sound.
Or maybe on your commute home or while making dinner tonight.
You consciously switch your inner monologue to English. Narrate what you're doing, what you're seeing, even if it feels awkward. Just start.
The point is, don't wait for the perfect time or until you feel ready.
No. Progress kicks in the moment you take action. Do one small thing today to build that initial momentum. It really works.
Okay, and as we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final thought, something maybe a bit more philosophical to think about as you start putting these techniques into practice.
When you commit to these strategies, especially the English out ones, you're doing more than just practicing grammar or vocabulary. You are actively engaging in a process of identity formation.
Identity formation, how so?
Think about it. You're moving beyond just learning about English. With every sentence you speak, every thought you formulate directly in the language, you are, step by step, becoming an English speaker.
Not just someone who studies English, but someone who uses it as part of who they are.
Exactly. And embracing that shift in identity, seeing yourself not just as a learner forever, but as an emerging user and speaker of the language. That mindset shift can be incredibly powerful. It fuels your motivation and helps you push through the inevitable challenges.
So the final thought is, you're not just learning English, you're becoming an English speaker.
Keep showing up. Keep soaking it in. Keep letting it out. You've got this.
Fantastic advice. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep diving deeper.